We continue our story with Megatronus Prime telling Overlord good. Now, let's get to work, shall we? And this is where he simply states, first, I will give you your ship. Then I will simply unearth your army. To which Overlord's like, what? To which he says, shh, just watch, my apprentice. So he lifts his hand, and this is where he remakes the Decepticon warship. Keep in mind the Autobots aren't around at the time because they went back to base to actually recover from such an intense battle. And so he then lifts the rubble up from that same area, that same location, and actually reveals that the Predacon army is still alive, along with two of their most intelligent members at the moment, Skylynx and Darksteel. And this is where Megatronus simply states, now, what else do you require, my apprentice? To which he's like, well, I could use some new troops here, and I think I have a few ways that you could actually remake a few. To which this is where Megatronus simply laughs and simply raises his hand, and this is where a portal opens, summoning the bodies of Megatron and Starscream. And then he uses powers to convert Starscream into the likes of Scourge and Megatron himself into the likes of Galvatron. Kind of a callback to the whole G1 thing where Unicron converted, I believe it was either the Skywarp or Thundercracker into Scourge, and then having Megatron become Galvatron, right? However, Overlord wants to be a little bit more dedicated, and this is where he says, I actually have one more suggestion. Megatronus simply smiles and brings the body of zombified Skyquake. And again, he remakes him, actually makes him, still from the corpse that he's in, and then turns him into Cyclonus, embodying everything he had, but with a more dark and sentimental twist, with the still same shared spark as Dreadwing, which will come in handy later. And this is where Overlord simply states, great, now we can begin. My new army. We will scour this world for the Autobots, rid them from this plane, and then put my lord and master Megatronus on a pedestal. To which Megatronus simply states, and Cybertron will now be mine. To which this is where we head back to the Autobot base. Everyone's kind of winding down. By the way, if you're wondering what happened to Knockout and Breakdown, they were actually captured and given the option to join. To which I don't really think they had a choice in the matter, and so they do join, actually offering medical expertise and whatever heavy weaponry they can actually give towards the Autobots. So yeah, they're alive. And this is where Taurus will ask, so what do? We can't just leave Overlord out there. To which this is where Dreadwing simply states, we just took on one of the biggest battles we've had to date. Right now, I think it is better that we deal with this situation at hand. And this is where Taurus simply states we could be out there hunting him, out there tracking him. However, this is where Dreadwing doubles over in pain again. And he's like, what? No. He can't be alive. And to which everyone looks at him as like, what's wrong? To which Taurus simply states, you gotta be kidding me. How is that zombie still alive? To which he says, I don't know, but he feels different somehow. Alive. He's back somehow, but I don't know how. To which Soundwave states that then it's very possible Overlord may have found him or found more Dark Energon and resurrected him. However, this is where he also informs Grimlock, or Tyrannos Prime here, that there's actually a Decepticon escape pod here. To which this is where Tyrannos Prime simply states, alright, he'll handle it. However, this is where he also explains the kind of situation that he also found something else. A few things. 5 things, actually. However, Tyrannos tells him to put his on hold, and that he'll be back to actually discuss this. And this is where he simply tells his Dinobots to come with him. So, the Dinobots are going to be the one taking this episode on today. And, well, when they get to the location, they don't spot any Vehicons. Oh yeah, that's right. They killed them all. But this is where they actually do meet Skylynx and Darksteel. And this is where they also meet the likes of Galvatron. And he simply states, Minions of the... Oh, a new prime. How quaint. To which, this is where Tyrannos simply states, ain't wasting no time here. Dinobots attack. And again, this kind of shows you that Grimlock's not like Optimus. No speeches, no rally calls. Get straight to business. So the Dinobots versus the, well, Decepticons. And Galvatron proves to be quite formidable, as do the Predacons, being able to take on the Dinobots themselves. Keep in mind, they're not enhanced or anything. They're just simply strong as they are. And so the battle begins to kind of spin around in the Decepticons' favor. However, once the Dinobots actually get their footing in, this is where Slug actually begins to call out a maneuver. And this is where the Dinobots actually perform it, with Grimlock now being able, or Tyrannos Prime, excuse me, actually being able to get a solid one-on-one with Galvatron. This is where he begins pummeling him. And this is where Galvatron is able to fight back a little bit, but it's not much here. Again, this is the second Beast Prime, all right, and one of the strongest primes till date. So him being able to overpower Galvatron, and eventually he uses Cerberus Blade to cut off his arm, actually speaks volumes here. And this is where Galvatron's like, what? No, I was being invincible, Lord Megatronus. And to which Tyrannos is like, Megatronus, you mean? To which Galvatron laughs sadistically. Yes, Megatronus Prime, my lord and master, my creator, has given me more power than I could have ever imagined. And to where, this is where his arm simply floats up and reattaches itself. To where Galvatron simply states something very telling. Chaos will reign. And this is where he dodges the fusion blast, or Tyrannos Prime dodges the fusion blast and uses his Cerberus Blade to actually cut Galvatron right down the middle, or at least, through his side and stuff like that. However, he regenerates again, and this is where Cerberus actually gets increasingly angry about this. And again, just like with regular Grimlock, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. He says, so, I'm guessing I'm going to have to vaporize you, right? To which he says, yeah, you're going to have to do that. To which he gets a very sadistic smile on his face and simply states, good. And he transforms into his Glavenus form. And this is where Galvatron understands what just happened, or what's going to happen. So he tries to flee, but nope, don't run now. As soon as he transforms, he gets sliced right on his wing, causing him to fall down. And this is where Hellblade begins to pounce on him, actually tearing right into him like a predator tearing into its prey, like a lion tearing into a zebra, a crocodile tearing into a wildebeest. This is horrifying. If Overlord was watching this, he'd be like, yep, kind of should have warned you about that, right? But this is where he lets out a scorching, and I mean a scorching flame that causes him to literally burn Galvatron down to his very spark, and this causes even the spark itself terminating Galvatron. Now I understand that, Galvatron just kind of got here and he's already dead, but keep in mind that Grimlock's not one to play, and giving him prime status, prime weaponry, stuff like that, the ability to literally manipulate fire itself, he's not doing that. But this is where the pod actually opens and actually reveals Elita 1. However, she's not by herself here, and she's actually come accompanied with two other Autobots, two of her teammates, and that being Chromia, the weapons specialist of the group, and one that actually does have a personal relationship with the Dinobots, actually a very good relationship with them. Even in the canon continuity, Chromia is actually pretty friendly with them, surprisingly. And then their youngest member, Moonracer, the sniper of the group. And she's actually ecstatic to see more Autobots and Predacons? What the? I thought those things were extinct. To which this is where, Chromia simply states, well, they seemingly are not anymore. And, are they on your side? Or, to which Moonracer is like, well, that actually would be pretty cool. I would like to ride one of them. To which Alita simply turns to them and is like, if you two don't focus for 5 stellar cycles, or stellar seconds, or microseconds. However, this is where they actually do see Grimlock in his beast form, still making sure Galvatron is ultimately incinerated for good, and they're about to draw their weapons until Slug tells them, hey, wait a minute. Don't go blasting off in a fray. And this is where he actually begins to explain why Grimlock is pretty much making sure that Galvatron is fully incinerated. And Alita's like, Galvatron? Is that a new Decepticon or something? To which this is where they kind of see him. Or we kind of pan over to Grimlock here, or Tyrannus Prime, excuse me. And he's kind of looking around like, okay, nothing left. Alright, this should be good. And so, reverting back into his robot form, this is where he simply greets them, and Alita sees it. No, not you. It could have been anybody else but you. To which Tyrannus Prime simply rolls his optics and is like, yeah, it's me. I didn't ask for this, nor did I even ask for what I become. Now, how about you just come back to base, join us, and we can just call it a day right now. However, Alita's having none of it. Where's Optimus? Where is Orion? To which Tyrannus puts it bluntly, dead. He was killed by Overlord, who we've been fighting here for a while. Right now, we're at the end of this war, and pretty much we could use your help to do this. To which Chromia is all for it. Moonracer's all for it. A chance to really end this war once and for all. This could actually be one of the pivotal and turning points of the entire thing. But Chromia is curious. Why doesn't Alita like Grimlock, or Tyrannus Prime as they call him? And this is where Tyrannus simply states, well, it's a long story, but right now, let's get back to base. However, Alita's like, no, explain it now. To which he simply sighs and simply states, during the war, we were lieutenants. Me, her, Jazz, and Ultra Magnus. However, unlike most of the others, I was one to really rebuff against some of Optimus's orders. And keep in mind the fact that I was also effective at my job, but I called Prime soft. I called Prime weak. Because his fear, or his future sight, if you will, paralyzed him from what was in front of him. And Alita never liked him for that, never got along with him because of how he treated, or how he and Optimus always bickered over stuff here. But again, keep in mind, he was the one put in a position she did not perform in, or did not perform well in, that being at coordination. To which Alita says, I had that position, and I had it well. To which this is where Grimlock simply states, is that why the Decepticons broke through your blockade multiple times? I had strategies, I had the determination, I had the will and ruthlessness to get it done. And this is where he simply comments to Alita that right now, he does not care about petty grudges, he does not care about petty rivalries. Right now, this is their chance to not only end the war, but end it all, once and for all. Are you going to come with me, or are you not? To which Alita simply states, no, she won't. They can go with you, but I'm not following you. I'm not following your orders. Why would I follow someone who was blatantly disrespectful to one of the greatest authoritative figures of all time? To which this is where Snarl simply states, well, Grimlock is also one of the greatest authoritative figures of all time. To which Alita simply states, no, not in her book. Right now, I'll help every now and then, but consider me not a part of your Autobot cause. To which Tyrannus simply waves her off and simply states, fine, go. But know this, the door is always open for you, Alita. And so Alita goes off into the wilderness, and this is where Chromia and Moonracer both head with the Dinobots. However, this is where Sludge simply asks something. Hey, what about those two? This is where Tyrannus Prime looks over and sees Skylynx and Darksteel and asks them, do you understand the only choice you have left? To which Skylynx and Darksteel look at each other, and then they simply transform. Not really too surprising to the Autobots, considering Shockwave's, madness in general, but they simply say, yes, sir, I am Skylynx, and I am Darksteel. To which this where Tyrannus Prime simply states, good, you're part of us now. Come on, before I change my mind and execute the both of you. So they hurry up and run towards the portal as well. And when they get back to the Autobot base, this is where everyone is simply on high alert. Relics and everything just in case they have to go. And this is where Soundwave simply states, Tyrannus Prime, sir, we've actually received a message from someone we didn't expect to ever be real, sir. And so Soundwave plays the audio log, and this is where Tyrannus Prime actually isn't fazed by it. It's a challenge to see if he's worthy to be a Prime, and well, maybe, just maybe, a chance to reclaim another relic from none other than Megatronus Prime. And well, that's where we're going to leave it all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Peace.